Today, we're going to talk about a woman with a unique style, endless controversies, and an undeniable legendary Melania Trump. When people mention Melania, the first thing that comes to mind is probably this: she's Donald Trump's wife, the former First Lady of the United States, a fashion icon, often referred to as the Ice Queen, and the target of media attention worldwide. But did you know, before she became First Lady under the global spotlight, she was just an ordinary girl from a small town in Eastern Europe? On April 26, 1970, Melania was born in Novo Mesto, Yugoslavia. At the time, Slovenia was merely a small republic under the socialist country of Yugoslavia. Her father, Victor, was a car dealer at a state-owned car company, and her mother, Emilija, worked as a designer at a textile factory, specializing in children's clothing. Though her family wasn't rich, they were considered middle class by the standards of the time. They had a color TV, a car, they could take beach vacations in the summer and go skiing in the winter. Compared to her peers, Melania's childhood was fairly comfortable and stable. She was quiet, well-behaved, and not the type to cause trouble. Her school performance was good. At just 6 years old, her mother signed her up for a children's fashion show at the textile factory where she worked. That was probably the first time Melania stood on a runway. And perhaps destiny planted a little seed that day. As she grew older, Melania attended a design and photography high school in Ljubljana. After graduation, she was accepted into the architecture program at the University of Ljubljana. But she quickly realized that academics weren't her true passion. After just a year, she dropped out and threw herself entirely into the modeling industry. At 16, she was discovered by a well-known photographer. This marked the official start of her modeling career. To make it internationally, she gave herself a more Western-sounding name, Melania Nas. From Ljubljana to Milan, then to Paris, she worked the European fashion circuits, appearing on magazine covers, walking runways, and shooting ads. But her life-changing moment came in 1996. That year, she obtained a work visa to the United States and moved to New York City. When Melania first arrived in New York, her English wasn't fluent, and her modeling career hadn't yet taken off. She lived in a small rented apartment, saving money, taking on magazine shoots and brand advertisements. Life wasn't easy, but she never complained. In 1998, on one particular day, at a Manhattan party, Melania met the man who would change her life: Donald Trump. At that time, Trump was already a real estate mogul and a household name in New York. Bold, flamboyant, rich, and endlessly ambitious, their first meeting was, by all accounts, quite dramatic. That night, Trump arrived at the party with a date, but the moment he saw Melania, he was immediately drawn to her and went straight over to ask for her phone number. Smart as she was, Melania didn't give in easily. She gave him a fake number, just to see how serious he was. But Trump wasn't someone who gave up easily. He tracked her down through mutual friends and eventually got in touch. And just like that, a cross-class, cross-national love story began. During their dating years, the media didn't pay much attention to them. Melania rarely accepted interviews and preferred to stay quietly behind Trump, never fighting for the spotlight. But those who knew her said she had a mind of her own. Once, when a host asked her, "Why are you with Trump? Is it because he's rich?" Melania smiled and replied, "If I weren't beautiful, do you think he'd be with me?" A simple sentence, humorous, candid, and real. In 2004, Trump proposed to her at the top floor of his own Trump Tower. The engagement ring, worth a whopping $5 million, custom designed by Graf, one of the world's most prestigious jewelers. Romantic, luxurious, over the top, completely Trump style. In January 2005, Melania and Trump held their grand wedding at the Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. That day, the guest list glittered with political and business elites. Most notably, among the guests were Bill and Hillary Clinton. Melania wore a $200,000 Dior haute couture wedding dress. The train stretched 5 meters long, studded with 1,500 crystals, requiring over 1,000 hours of handwork. Their wedding photos made headlines across major fashion magazines, becoming the most talked about social event that year. 1 year later, in March 2006, Melania gave birth to their son, Barron Trump. Unlike many wealthy wives, Melania chose to care for her child herself. No nannies, no outside help. Every day, she personally made breakfast for Barron, read him bedtime stories, and took him to and from school. She insisted on teaching him Slovenian to keep him connected to her homeland's culture. Baron's childhood room inside Trump Tower had a private piano, a miniature golf course, and even a small swimming pool. When asked why she didn't hire a nanny, her answer was simple: "He's my son. I want to raise him myself." Fast forward to 2016. The US presidential election season kicked off. Trump officially announced his candidacy for president. Throughout the campaign, Melania's public appearances remained minimal. Unlike other political spouses who stood on stage cheering every speech, she chose to stay silent and low-key. But whenever she did speak, she stood firmly by her husband. At the 2016 Republican National Convention, Melania delivered an important speech. Later, her speech was criticized for having similar content to Michelle Obama's 2008 convention speech, sparking a plagiarism scandal. But Melania didn't respond much to the controversy. On January 20th, 2017, Trump was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. Melania officially became the second foreign-born First Lady in U.S. history. However, White House life wasn't easy for her. For the first 6 months, she didn't immediately move into the White House. Instead, she chose to stay in New York until Barron finished his school term. As First Lady, she launched a public initiative called Be Best, focusing on children's mental health, cyberbullying, and opioid abuse. Public reception was mixed. Some said she wasn't doing enough, that she wasn't proactive, but she stuck to her own pace, never pandering to public opinion. During her time in the White House, Melania endured many controversies. The most famous, the viral social media #FreeMelania. Whenever she stood next to Trump with a blank expression, the internet would explode with memes: "Save Melania, is she being held captive?" Some even called her the loneliest woman in the White House. When asked about these rumors, Melania never directly responded. In a CNN interview, she casually remarked, "I'm not a performer. I don't like fake smiles." She's definitely not someone who fakes her emotions, nor is she a talkative type. Unlike Michelle Obama's passion or Hillary Clinton's assertiveness, Melania has always had her own unique way of doing things. Privately, people describe Melania as someone with strong opinions. According to White House insiders, when she makes up her mind, no one can change it. When it comes to her marriage with Trump, their relationship dynamics are full of drama and mystery. Once, the media caught her publicly swatting Trump's hand away. Others have reported that they often sleep in separate bedrooms, living somewhat independent lives. Yet, insiders also reveal there's a kind of unspoken understanding and balance between them that outsiders will never comprehend. In 2021, after Trump left office, the couple moved back to Mar-a-Lago in Florida for a quieter life. Melania returned to her low-key routine, rarely making public appearances, focusing on raising Barron. Just when everyone thought she'd never return to the White House, in 2024, Trump launched his comeback and successfully won re-election. In January 2025, Melania once again stepped into the global spotlight as the First Lady of the United States. But this time, she appeared even more composed and serene. She knew exactly what needed to be done and how to handle the media scrutiny. Looking back on Melania's life from a small town in Eastern Europe to the White House, from an ordinary girl to a global figure, demonstrated, in her own quiet way, what it means to have silent strength. She may not be the most outspoken First Lady, nor the most publicly active political spouse, but her life experience teaches us this: no matter how noisy the world gets, you can always choose to live life on your own terms.